Thanks so much for checking out our review on the new Polar Grit X. On September 1st, we're going to be giving away one of these bad boys. To win, all you have to do is like and subscribe to our channel. We'll announce the winner on September 1st in the comments down below. Thank you so much and enjoy the review. Hey everybody, this is Steve Moore, owner of Run More, this fabulous brick and mortar running shop in Carroll County, Maryland. Thanks so much for watching our channel. We're excited to be doing a tech review. We rarely do these, but our good friends at Polar sent us this new Grit X to give a breakdown on a true runner's perspective. So we're really excited to give this to you because we're so used to doing shoe reviews, but this is sort of the other most important thing that we need in a runner's life is a good watch. So when I'm looking for a new GPS watch or a new running toy, there's a couple things that I look for. I'm looking for something that's going to be super accurate. I'm looking for something that's going to be easy for me to sort of set up and customize the way that I like. And I'm looking for something that's going to give me really good information either during, before, after, all that good stuff that I can take all that information and try to make me a better, more efficient runner. That's sort of what I'm looking for when I'm looking at a watch. So I guess first thing is the Polar Grit X is a new watch for Polar. I had been running in the Polar Vantage M previously, which was this guy. So this is sort of an upgraded, updated version of the Vantage series. It's got more bells and whistles to it, and it's really geared towards somebody who's doing a little more of the ultra marathon or long distance or adventure type running. And I even like the name the Grit because little things like the watch band is grittier. You know, it actually feels a little more durable. The face of the watch is just a little bit bigger. But we got a lot of great information in this watch that we can ascertain, but it's still a relatively light package, just coming in at 64 grams. So like to put that in perspective, that's just a little bit less than like a Phoenix 6, for example. So it's still a relatively light watch for looking kind of, you know, like a pretty good sized watch with a lot of information into it. So just to kind of go backwards, accuracy. That to me is the most important thing on any watch. I put that at the top of my list for a reason because while it's nice to have a lot of good bells and whistles and it's great to be able to, you know, play music maybe or all the other little things that you like, if it's not accurate, it means nothing. I've run in a bunch of different watches in the past couple years. As you can imagine, I've been a runner since I was just a little kid, so I've run the whole gamut from carrying a device that I put on my hip that was a pedometer that you measured out to just a basic, you know, a Timex Ironman where I would, you know, map something out and then try to do the math myself to figure out pacing to, you know, pretty much every brand from an Apple, a Garmin, a TomTom, you name it, I've run in it sometime or other. So, and I've had various degrees of success with the accuracy of all those watches. Before Polar came into my life, I had been running with an Apple Watch and then I've been running with a TomTom and a Garmin. And it's just interesting when you would run courses that were consistent with different watches on the variance that you would get in the overall accuracy and such. And that was really frustrating to me, especially with the Apple Watch was by far the most inaccurate watch I've ever had. And I see people say that a lot, either whether on Strava or if I see someone commenting on Instagram and such, and you'll see people that'll be frustrated with the inaccuracy of the Apple Watch. And that to me is kind of crazy if that's something that you're going to keep wearing all the time, but the data is not something you can trust. It doesn't seem like a really good investment. And again, this is one of those few things that we really need to spend some energy and time researching and putting some money in, because between a good pair of shoes and a running watch, that's really all we need to be a good developed runner for long periods of time. So what was nice on this watch is that I could go out and measure a course and then run with it and know I was really getting accurate information on it. And even if you've run in watches where you might do the same loop over and over again and your distances would vary, how frustrating is that? It's really frustrating. Obviously, sometimes there's little things that may change the overall distance depending on how wide you take a turn, if stop at a traffic light and maybe you go around it. All those little things do obviously have a little bit of a difference on the variables that you might find in your overall distance. But for the most part, if you're running the same route, you should get the same distance. And there's way too many times in previous watches, and I'm not just picking on the Apple Watch, but you'd find different distances that would come across when you'd finish your run. And then how can you trust anything on there? If the basic stuff that you're looking for in a GPS watch is to have an accurate GPS watch, then everything else is all of a sudden put into question. So knowing that this watch was super accurate for me is really, it just makes me feel better. And then again, I can kind of trust all the information that's out there. It's also got really cool, interesting features in here that are going to help with your overall accuracy in GPS, which is it's going to give you stuff that's now called the hill splitter. So you can really take the overall picture of your run and say, I ran for 7 miles, whatever it might be, but now you can dial in and see exactly how much of that run was uphill versus downhill. It's just a neat little add-on feature that they put on here that I wasn't sure I was going to be using all that often, but I do like to look at the end and not only get my overall elevation on a run, which is, pretty common in most of your running watches, but you can really geek it down even further and get exactly how much up versus down. And I like that too, because much like if you were running consistently and you have those Strava segments where you can kind of gain and you can kind of look to see how you've progressed or maybe going the other way or compared to other times that you've run it, this will do it automatically. So if you have that consistent loop, you can see what you've run that big hill in every single time. You can go back and kind of monitor and say, I'm getting faster, slower. And it's also really good if you're doing a hill repeat workout. So if you do have that spot that you're going to go and run, 8, 12 times, you can really go back and see, because it does it automatically at the end of your run without hitting a lap function. You can see every single split that you did up that hill to make sure that you were consistent or you were progressing throughout the workout or whatever information you're trying to ascertain for that particular run. It all does it on its own. So for as far as the accuracy piece of this watch, very happy with it. That, again, checking that box is always worth good right out of the gate. And then something that's going to be, for me, ease of use. I've run in a million watches, and I still just am not a big technology guy. I get frustrated with it very easily. I really, when I do this, when I'm breaking down this watch, I'm looking at it as an everyday, pretty serious runner who runs a good bit, but not necessarily somebody who is a total tech geek. So I want something that me, as somebody who's not really tech specific, to be able to get all of the stuff that I want out of this watch without having to feel like an idiot programming it, or that I need to spend tons of time watching a step-by-step video or going through a manual to figure out how to do the basics things that I want. And I had no problem with this. Now, it also helped that I had come from Polar Vantage previously, so I kind of knew some of the tricks of the trade, but there really is not that much to it. It's synced really easily with my phone, and then you can really customize, because there's a lot of things you can customize in this. Going back to, like I said, like a TomTom or going back to like a Timex, and things are kind of basic, everything was sort of the same for everybody. But now you can really gear it towards even, day of the week you want to start your running calendar on. How much are you weighing? What sports are you in? There's 130 sports on here. You can do anything from jazz dancing to canoeing to disc golf to running, and you can put them in an order so that when you're scrolling through the functions and the things that you might do, if you're somebody who does a lot of different activities, put it in an order so you can get to the stuff that you want faster. I took out most of the stuff that I didn't want because it's very infrequently that I'm going to go jazz dancing. Just not going to be in my everyday wheelhouse. So I don't need to kind of fumble through that information if I'm trying to get to something like hiking, for example. So a lot of good features on here that you're able to kind of customize just for yourself. Another thing that I like on it is that you can customize the information you get on your watch face. So not only am I get the back end stuff where I can see exactly what activities I want, I can change all of the screen settings to get exactly how I want it organized on here. So for my specific one, on my first watch page, because you actually have 3 different versions you can scroll through and get tons of stuff. More than I need at any given time, because I don't need 12, but you can fit 4 different information pieces on the front of the watch face. So on mine, I've got my average pace for an overall run, I've got my distance, I've got the time run, and I've got my current mile pace. So that way I can look down at a given time and see exactly the information I want. And then if I wanted to, I can scroll over and I've got information like power, I've got information like elevation, and I've got heart rate. All that stuff is on a different page, but I have set it up because that's where I want that information stored. Again, things that I like. I like being able to customize as much possible stuff so that, again, it's ease of use for me when I'm done. And so many other watches that I've run with in the past are very cookie cutter as far as what information and how it's going to be presented to you. So that kind of stuff has been really good for me. So now moving on to the information I can get to make me a better runner. That's the kind of stuff that I really geek myself out in. And depending on how serious you are with running or health or fitness or all that kind of stuff, you might not be as geeked out on that part of the information as I am. But I would imagine if you're looking at a review for a watch that's $429, that is more of somebody who's going to be doing longer stuff or more adventurous stuff or more hiking stuff, that you probably are a bit of a geek on that side, like myself. So there is no shortage of information that you can pull from this watch. This watch is going to give you all kinds of information like your wattage, because now you're able to track your power right on this watch. You don't need a separate device to get your power information, but if you're curious to see your wattage and to see what your wattage is looking like over a long period of time, if you're looking to see how you can kind of maintain that, you'll be able to get all that information now without any type of extra bells and whistles. You can track your average heart rate, you're able to see sleep cycles, you're able to really dive into as much information information as you want and go down from your fastest split, your fastest full mile, and a lot of information that you might be able to get from other GPS watches, but I find it presented much easier, not only on the watch, but on the Polar app and on the desktop. One last thing I like about that, about just sort of some of the dorky information that I pull out of this, is if you've had other watches where you can look at your run on here, but you really need to kind of transfer it to somewhere else to then really get into it, you don't have to do that on here. This stores all that great information from watches, from runs previously, and you can access it right on the watch. So if you finish that run and you want to know right then and there, any stat that you want. You want to see your fastest mile split during that long run that you did. You can scroll through and see every split. You can see your hill splitter. You can see your power. You can see all that stuff without having to send it elsewhere to then go back through and dive through it. And again, it's information. If I'm sitting there just playing on my watch or whatever, I don't need to go somewhere else. I can literally sit there and like a dork go back through runs that I had 3 weeks ago and to see all of my stats while I'm just playing on my watch. So one other couple little things that they did add on here as well, just to give you a little more information. Besides stuff like weather, which is now included on this that wasn't on the Vantage, there's a couple training tools that are going to help you become a little bit better, more efficient runner. One of the big ones is called FuelWise. So this is actually going to help you if you're doing longer stuff. If you've all had that dreaded bonk, run, race, whatever it may be, where you just sort of you putter out because you've run out of all of your fuel capacity in there, this will now give you a couple different ways to track it. It has a built-in method where it's going to ask you what distance are you running, what sort of intensity level are you going to be at, and then how much are you looking to take in. And it's going to kind of figure out based on not just a time sensitive, hey, every 20 minutes it's going to beep and you need to take a goo or whatever it may be. It actually knows how much calories you're burning and the breakdown of the calories you're burning. If you're breaking down a lot of fat, whatever, it's going to give you a, hey, Buzz, you need to take something now. And that's pretty neat. It only does it for anything over 90 minutes, but it's not just a clock reminder on here. It's actually listening to your body because it knows you. It's a learning watch where it's going to kind of figure out what's going on with you cumulatively and say, hey, you're burning at a higher rate, or you said you were going to be in zone 3, but you're stepping it up a little bit higher here, so we really need to keep on top of our fuel. And it really is a neat little trick of the trade. And you can also do the same thing with water. The water component on here is just time sensitive, where it's basically just going to give you a little buzz to remind you to take in some water. But the FuelWise itself program on here is pretty neat. And again, those are those little things we can do to help ourselves become a better, more fuel efficient runner. One other thing that they added on here that wasn't on the Vantage is being able to add some directional information on here. It's sort of a breadcrumby way, but if you are on Komoot, for example, and you want to program your own routes in there, you can then sync it into your watch. It's not going to come up with a whole full map on here, but it will give you some turn-by-turn information as you're coming through. I get lost frequently, so this is a nice add-on for me. Especially because you don't need to have your phone with you. I had some people that would say, well, I can kind of sync stuff here, but if you have to have your phone with you, then it's not helping you tons to be able to have your phone with you. You might as well just have your phone out and use the maps. So now you can just go on your own, have your information on here if somebody who uses Komoot. It'll put right up on here and give you some turn-by-turn information. So a couple other little customizable things. It is a 22 millimeter band, and it is something that you can take off and switch colors in. It comes with there's three different color options out there, but there are tons of different bands out there. So if you're looking for something that's a little more you, this is a band that you can pop off and that you can do a bunch of stuff with. This watch is coming in at $429, so it is less than some of the other watches in that category, and a watch that's going to be an all-encompassing watch on all the little different things and functions in your life. But it's going to be a little bit more than if you're looking for something that's just going to be a run accessory for somebody who's doing just short stuff, or maybe 2-3 days a week of casual training. It might have more than you need. But if you're somebody like myself who's a pretty serious runner, who's getting after it and might go hop on the trail, might go on a bike, might go do a couple other little things, there's a lot of great information in this watch that you can take out of it and help yourself become a little bit better, a little bit more engaged, and a little bit more tiled into what's making you tick, from your sleep, from your fuel, from your power, to any which way you want to customize it and gain this information, you can get it off of this watch. And then knowing that it's a very accurate watch is definitely going to give you that peace of mind that when you're looking at your overall run and your week and it puts all that information out there, it is true to form. So that's what I like. That's what I think about this watch. I hope I gave some good information. And if you have any questions that I didn't kind of go through on here, because there is a lot of information on a watch, and If I didn't answer your specific question, feel free to leave it below. And again, give us a subscribe and a like, because Polar is giving us a great watch to do a giveaway with. So thank you so much, and hope to see you out there, and thanks for watching.